What's going on, guys? Anthony here. Now, a lot of you guys have been asking me, Anthony, when are you going to drop that podcast that you've been bragging about? Guys, don't worry. The time is here. Last year, we had plans. And so the podcast before was called Real Talk Tony, but I decided to switch things up a little bit. I started something a few months back called Young and Adulting 101. And I thought to myself, why just make 30-second clips of it? Why not just make a podcast out of it? I believe that young adults, we need tips and we need strategies and we need something that adds value to our lives every single day. And so this podcast is dedicated to you. The episodes that you're going to see over the next few weeks are pre-recorded. So you see that it has the old logo and we may say real talk here and there, but I promise you guys that we have so much in store for you. So today, I have the privilege of introducing the very first episode. Today we're going to talk about intentional living. Now last year, a prophet came to our church and he spoke about living an intentional life. And I felt that touched my heart. And so I have the privilege of introducing the first episode. And the question is this: am I living an intentional life? Stay tuned. Now, Jay, bro, we're going to start with you. So, I mean, let's give some backstory first, right? As to why we even made this episode, why we're creating it. So, as I mentioned in the beginning, the prophet came to our church and he was speaking some heavy facts. Mm-hmm. I could have sworn that Tyler went to Spanish service right after.
I should have.
She should have.
Spanish service was really good.
Oh my gosh! I
was so mad I missed it.
I couldn't be there.
You couldn't be there.
I was so sad.
I was doing kicks.
Oh, he was doing kicks. Okay, that makes sense. But that preaching, that teaching hit me so heavy that I sparked back up and I started going to the gym again. I don't know if y'all can see the games.
Oh, I see it. I'm so proud of you.
Okay. Come on, bro. You proud of me? Hype me up, bro. Hype me up. Come on now. I started living intentional because I didn't feel right. I think like I kept waking up every morning and thinking to myself, what am I doing with my life? Completely set to the side the fact that I have a great job, a great career, great family, great friends, a beautiful fiance, everything's good. But I felt like something was missing, and that was the intentionality behind everything. Was I doing things with an intentional style of living? And that started with my health, my physical health. Because I may look like I'm a toothpick right now, but going up those stairs, I would be fatigued halfway through. Yo. And so I had to spark something in my head. I had to spark up, and I had to realize wait, I need to start living intentional, and it's gonna start with my physical body. So Jay, can you talk a little bit about? I know when I told you we were doing this episode, and you were like, "Yo, I gotta do that." I love that topic. So let me hear what you have to say, bro.
So for me, when hearing that message, obviously, Prophet called me to the front that day. But after that service, the thing that changed for me was my mental, because I was so against things have to be like this, things have to be like that, and if they're not like that, that'll irritate me. I was so easily angered. I let all the little things matter and have so much strength on me because I wasn't just focused on how do I do this so that it'll help me just, I guess, mature mentally. Because my physical, I mean, come on.
Come on, now. Kid's jacked.
And then, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, what does living intentional mean to you in the simplest explanation?
I guess living intentional, is just keeping yourself accountable.
Yeah.
If you say you're going to do this and there needs to be a reason why you're doing it.
Yeah.
If you do that, then you're being intentional with yourself.
Yeah.
And as you do whatever it is you're doing, what was I gonna say?
Staying consistent with what you need to do.
Yes.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, you said it in a nutshell. In a nutshell, this is how I would say it. Having a why. Mm-hmm. waking up every morning and having a why. My why to go to the gym 3 to 4 days a week is I don't want to be in my 40s and 50s and 60s in the worst shape of my life. Because I'm now 24 and I just be going up them stairs and I'd be like, and I hate it. I cannot. But a lot of it was at peak living, how do I say this? At the biggest moment of my life of living an unintentional life where I just didn't care, I was going to sleep at 2 a.m. watching Netflix and watching shows. I was eating a family-sized pack of Oreos by myself, followed by a bowl of Cocoa Pebbles, followed by another bowl of Cocoa Pebbles because I needed more, followed by, guess what? Another bowl of Cocoa Pebbles because I wanted more. And I was feeding myself so many unhealthy things, not only physically, but mentally. Because I wasn't up watching a documentary or watching a sermon or reading the Bible. I was up watching, the new episode of Rick and Morty, a new episode of whatever came out, and I was not educating myself whatsoever. I think that I was just overdoing it because can I eat a bowl of cereal every once in a while? Yeah. Can I eat some Oreos every once in a while? Yeah. But if I'm doing all of that back to back to back and I'm not sleeping until 2 a.m, I'm living the worst life that I could possibly live. And that's, again, I had that wake-up call and I realized, man, I got to live an intentional life, not only for myself, but for my soon-to-be wife. I can't just be walking around the house a nobody. I have to walk with purpose. I have to be the man of the house and set the steps, according to what God may have over our lives. And all of that started as I started living an intentional life. You have anything else to say to that?
No, that's good.
Yeah?
I think back to what you were saying by feeding yourself mentally. I feel that because there are certain things that we are feeding ourselves mentally that we don't even notice what they're doing to us. Like it could be TV, it could be music, it could be movies.
Yeah.
Anything you're doing or you're feeding yourself can go back in, like it could turn into something spiritual.
Yeah.
Like it could change your entire mood.
Yeah. That's 100% facts. Did you want to...
That's good. I was reading a verse today and it was like in Matthew, like,
Is it the lamp?
the eyes, the lamp.
Yes, that verse goes crazy.
So it's like, and it's so true.
Yeah.
And like I think sometimes we like to overestimate how much like self-control we have, or like how I could take this, I could take looking at this, I could take it, but
it's not the case. Yeah. You can testify a little bit about how music affected you and how intentional you had to be with that. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
It could be, I have dealt with the same thing over and over again, and I'll say, it's just music. What is it gonna do to me? And I'll say everybody does it. Like compare myself to these people. But honestly, for me, music just kept bringing me down. Like there's certain artists out there that are just so depressing that'll put me in that mood. It'll be like 2 a.m. I'm just blasting music in my ear and I'm like, why am I feeling like this? Like what is going on? But then at 2 a.m. another day, I'm putting on worship music and I'm like, I have tears going down my eyes listening to Oceans, bro.
Yeah, that's my song. Yeah, that's my song.
And it's crazy to think about what music actually does to a person and what words that are coming out of these artists' mouth, what they really mean, dissecting the meanings of these words.
Yeah.
and also
Go ahead.
I think with shows as well, obviously, right? But like shows, like I'm the type of person, like when I was younger, like I used to like use shows to like escape. Like I swore, it was the weirdest thing ever. Like I swore I was in the show. Like I would literally, my imagination was wild, but that's how I would really escape.
Me with
like
the Flash.
I would no, like it's really bad. Like I would be thinking about that show all day. Like I would be daydreaming.
You were a daydreamer? I
would
daydream,
bro.
In middle school,
Degrassi, I swore I was in Degrassi.
I used to think that I was a main character. Yo, Tyler, you are not different. Yo,
Cobra
Tyler,
Kai.
Bro, and
We're
it's
the
really
same.
bad. Like so, like now I have to be very cautious of the shows. Like if shows, like if certain shows, if they have like a lot of like I don't know if they're like really sad or if there's depression or anxiety or suicide or drug use, like I have to be very careful in what I watch because I'll be there again.
I had to stop watching 13 Reasons Why.
I can't even watch that show.
I had to stop
What's
watching
that show? Euphoria?
Euphoria, yep.
I can't watch that
I
show.
can't watch that show either.
I had to stop. It hurt me. I was like, I'm feeling this. I'm feeling defeated. I feel like crushed. Like, what is going on in my spirit life? Why is it telling me to stop watching this?
It's so powerful.
It's so crazy.
It could just grab you and like, it's just, I just have no words.
And then people like will post this episode and people will watch it and they'll be like, oh my God, that's not so true. Why are you Christians always exaggerating? You're blind.
Yeah.
You're blind and that's the fact of the matter. You're blind if you don't see that. If you don't see how shows and music is affecting you, that's perfectly fine. We're teaching you, and if you don't want to take the knowledge, then go ahead. Don't bash on us.
I'm very strict on, for me at least, I can't put my own convictions on people, but like when it comes to certain shows or movies, like I can't watch scary, weird images.
I can't either, yeah.
I cannot take it. But that's just me. But in Romans it says, not all things are lawful. Count me out.
No, yeah,
Not
you're
all
paraphrasing.
things, not all things
it's fine.
are against the law, but not. Just give me a second.
Oh, yeah.
Not all things benefit. Whoa, not all things are law something,
It's there.
but not all things are.
Oh, First Corinthians.
Say it.
I have the right to do anything, you say, but not everything is beneficial.
Yes.
I have the right to do anything, but not everything is constructive.
Yes, and it's like,
the
and when it
new
comes to that, it's
NIV.
like, it's a slippery slope. Like
The English Standard Version says the lawful one. Okay. All things are lawful, but not all things are helpful. All things are lawful, but not all things build up.
yeah. So I was
That's good.
struggling with the
That's
music.
good. It shows music and everything. Not everything builds you up. I mean, you listen to, I used to be obsessed with Drake. That dude was like,
mad.
these guys are haters.
Don't even
These guys
I
are
don't
haters.
like Drake. I don't like Drake.
You don't like Drake? I used to think that the guys, didn't he win like Artist of the Decade?
Yeah,
he did.
I think
it was either him or
yeah.
Talk to him nice.
No, it was
definitely Drake. Anyways, I used to be so obsessed with him, but I used to listen to his music and think to myself, I want his lifestyle. I'm so mad that I don't have his lifestyle. And it made me hate my lifestyle. It made me hate my family. It made me hate everything that I was living. And I had to catch that and I had to stop it and say, wait, this isn't who I am. And so then I switched. Do I listen to him every once in a while? If I'm working out, yeah. If I'm at the gym, you know what I'm saying? Like, oh, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'll listen to him. But it's not something that I'm driving around and I'm feeling sad and I start listening to Drake. I start listening to those songs that bring me to the feet of Jesus, more than that. And scary stuff, I'm not a fan of that stuff.
You know, for scary movies, it's weird because there are certain movies that I will watch, but there are certain movies that I try to stay away from because that's like, it's a little too real for me.
Not
Yeah.
demonic. Like,
Exactly.
yo, I can't.
Facts.
I can't
I
take
I
it.
feel that, yeah.
I've never seen like The Exorcist.
I can't.
Oh,
I've
no.
never seen like The Conjuring. I don't watch those
neither.
movies.
There was
I
a
stayed away
movie
from The
that I
Conjuring.
watched.
Do you say Conjuring or Conjuring?
It's Conjuring.
I've seen people say Conjuring. That's why I was kind of like notification versus notification.
That's
Okay.
Have you ever heard notification?
I say notification.
I say notification.
I say
That's
notification.
surprising. 'Cause
Anyways, go ahead. I'm
you do a lot
sorry.
of Notification.
There's
vibes.
this movie.
Message.
There's this movie I watched. I think it was called Dead Silent. That movie tormented me for months.
Tormented you.
Wow,
Wow.
that's
Like,
crazy.
I could not sleep. Like, I could cry right now because of how scared I was. No, like, stop. I'm not emotional. Like, I was scared. Like, the images would pop up in my head. Like, I could not escape it. I could not sleep. It was so bad.
gosh.
So when my friends be like, oh, Tyler, like, you're mad weak, you're mad sensitive. Yeah.
It's your
I
spirit.
can't
It's
take
not
it.
for you.
It shows how much when you're not living intentionally or watching those movies intentionally when you feel like, okay, this is okay, how much it could shift your mentality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
1,000%.
it could shift all the different things that you're trying to live intentional for, but you can't because of this or that. Mm-hmm. Shows how much the background can just change what's next.
Yep. That's good. Yeah. So what are some things that we could do to start living an intentional life?
I think setting priorities.
Setting priorities. That's good.
Just putting things in front of things that are like really not important. Like we do so many things in our life that are like, what are we doing for? Like, why are we doing this?
Yeah.
When we could put like so many other things that are more important in front of that. Like say, I don't know, you're doing something random and you're taking that time instead of doing something like talking to God, praying, worshiping. You could be doing that, but instead you're doing something foolish.
Yeah.
In order to like he said, priorities, but in order to have priorities, you need to keep yourself accountable to those priorities.
Yeah.
Because let's say you're prioritizing your relationship with God but instead instead in the back of your head, you're really thinking about what's going on outside of that.
Yeah.
Whether it's a bad friendship or it could be something good, but even that's shifting what your priority should be.
Yep. That's good.
I have two things. I hope I don't lose it. Okay.
Write it down.
I think I got it.
Okay.
I think the first one is this is really broad, but just trying to like fight your flesh, cause it's tough out here. Like it's really like,
Keep going.
like those desires that you have, whether it's small things like you just love to shop and just spend money, or just love to eat the worst food ever and continue and like just learning to fight your flesh when it comes to those things. And I was gonna say something. It's gonna be okay. So it's like, I think we need to be intentional with other things, but if we're not even intentional with like our time in prayer with the Lord, or being in like just in connection with Him and reading the Word, then how can we be intentional with other things? And if we're more intentional with those other things, I just think it shows that some things are like above Him, or like are an idol in our lives, if we're able to be more intentional with those things. Now with the, you see, you hear me?
I feel you.
That shows the priorities that Omari had said.
Yeah.
Without, putting your relationship with God, or like, what'd you say again?
Honestly, it's gone.
And sometimes
It's
we
too
won't
much.
even know. We won't even know that we're putting these things in front of God.
Yeah.
Like, it's scary to think about what. Oh my God, what were you saying before?
The flesh, fighting the flesh, fighting
No,
against the
but
flesh.
Before that.
Okay. The movies, the shows.
The lawful?
The lawful
The
benefit,
lawful-
not if things are benefit
Oh my-
for you, but not
And then when you said something, oh my gosh.
before that.
How we underestimate, or
we underestimate what we could take and what our eyes
or
can
we
see.
overestimate
Yes.
what we
Overestimate,
can
over-
take. Just like that, I feel like that's so strong. Like, we think we could take all these things and just accept it all, but really we're putting these things before God. Like,
Yeah.
what's really important?
Yep. And this is how you can identify, right? This is why I will always encourage read scripture. I'm not just saying it because it's like something we should do as Christians. I'm saying it because this teaches us what exactly, just what you said. When speaking about the flesh, Tyler, this is something that I like to, a verse that I love to go back to, Galatians 5:19, Galatians chapter 5, verses 19 all the way to 21. And I'm reading from the English Standard Version. It says, "Now the works of the flesh are evident: sexual immorality, impurity, sensuality, idolatry, sorcery, enmity." Did I say that right?
Enmity?
Enmity, yeah. Strife, jealousy, fits of anger, rivalry, dissensions, division, envy, drunkenness, and all these things I warn you, as I warned you before, that those who do such things will not inherit the kingdom of God. You have to understand that we overthink what flesh is, what the battle between spirit and flesh is. But this is the author speaking to us, and he's saying, hey, listen, this is what the battle with the flesh is. When you study, when you struggle with anger, that's the flesh. When you struggle with sexual immorality, that's the flesh. When you struggle with jealousy, that includes you see someone pass by and they got the car that you don't have and you're jealous, that's flesh. And this is the author saying, hey, listen, we gotta fight against that. And so another verse right there, the verse before that, verse 17 says, for the desires, is that the one you pulled up? She pulled it up too. For the desires, Galatians 5:17, for the desires of the flesh are against the spirit, and for the desires of the spirit are against, and the desires of the spirit are against the flesh, for these are opposed to each other, to keep you from doing what you want to do. If anything pushes you and opposes God, you need to push that thing miles, like a billion miles away. Like someone said it this way, is a quote that I read, they said, if it pushes you an inch away from God, you need to push it a foot away from it, like a billion feet away from it, or something like that. So even if it's affecting you the slightest way, and it could be the tiniest thing, if you recognize that, man, this is affecting my relationship with God, instantly recognize this is a battle between flesh and spirit, flesh and spirit, flesh and spirit. And that's where intentional living helps out, where we have to say, I need to live an intentional life, because if I live an intentional life, then my flesh doesn't overcome and I can live by the spirit. You got something else to add? Yeah, go ahead.
Like what you, honestly, I was so, okay. Like what you said about if something is causing, what you just said.
Yeah.
It's like kind of like the verse when it says like if you're I forgot what limb part it said. If your something caused you to sin, to cut it off.
It was
Yeah.
in Matthew.
Like,
It was in
In Matthew,
It's
if
that
your hand
deep.
causes you to sin or something
It's
like
that
that.
deep.
If
like,
your eye causes
if
you to
I-
lust.
if a certain show or if something you're watching or like is causing you to sin, cut it off. But then the second part about the flesh and the spirit, like it's so important to live intentional, because when you're not, bro, like your flesh is just gonna win.
Yeah.
And it's really like, I think a couple months ago I was overwhelmed because I realized like the weight of like conviction. Like, wow, like I have to like my whole life until I see the Lord, I'm gonna live like this, like with this battle, like with my flesh. And it's so important to and it's always gonna be tough, it's always gonna be hard, but there are ways to make it easier.
Yeah. That's good. I mean, you said, like, you hit it on the nail. You said my whole life. The teaching that I did for InterVarsity, a God-chasing generation, the theme verse for that day was Philippians chapter 3, verse 12. And to give you some context before I read it, this is Paul about 20 to 30 years into his ministry. And he's saying, hey, listen, and again, as I've mentioned in episodes before, I'm open to correction. If I'm saying something wrong, I will correct it the following episodes. But this is Paul saying, hey, listen, I've been at it for a while. But just because I've been at it for a while doesn't mean that I've obtained everything that I need to obtain. On the contrary, I'm fighting the good fight, and I'm going to keep pushing. He says there's no such thing as super Christians. You just keep fighting the good fight. So Philippians chapter 3, verse 12, not that I've already obtained all this or have already arrived at my goal, but I press on to take hold of that for which Christ Jesus took hold of me. He says, I don't have it all figured out. I'm still trying to live an intentional life. I'm still trying to push away from everything negative that comes my way. There's no such thing as having it all figured out. I'm 20 plus years into ministry, into following Christ, and I'm still pushing forward. And a lot of living an intentional life is, as you guys said earlier, that consistency. You're constantly doing that same exact thing. Consistency all across the board. Are you consistently going to the gym? Are you consistently reaching out to your friends? Are you consistently getting out of bed every single morning and studying for whatever you got to study? Are you living a consistent life? I mean, Jesus was consistent all across the board. He was consistent with his friends. He didn't just pause things and said, deuces, my boy. You know, like, all right, give me a break, guys. I mean, we're talking about a God that has the power to freeze time. All right, and he could say everything, pause for a second, I gotta take a break, I gotta chillax. No, he kept consistent, he kept pushing all the way through. He knew that his intentional living was going to affect the generations to come. And that's the importance of an intentional life. Do you guys have anything else to add when it comes to intentional living? Jay?
I feel like you can really tie in being intentional with being accountable. Because in order to be intentional, you need to be accountable.
Mm-hmm. That's good.
Cause like you said, it could be even going to the gym. You have to be accountable to wake up at this time to go work out.
Yep.
And without that accountability, you can't be intentional with what you're doing. Cause I guess they can work hand in hand. Even with what Tyler was saying, with it being watching the movies, or with what Omar was saying with the music, you need to be accountable with yourself, because this is not the time for this.
Yep.
There's a time and place for everything. And like, the biggest thing is, am I ready for this or not? Because I'm not really being accountable with what's going on now. So how am I supposed to be ready for what's next?
Exactly.
I want to bounce off of that.
Yeah.
I think the first step is like, give me a second. I had it.
Accountability.
No, it's like
Intentionality.
self-reflection. Like, don't deny.
Yeah.
Like, stop denying, bro. Like
passages
that
talked
you
about that a few weeks ago.
that you like that you're lazy. Like, stop denying, because it's just gonna be a cycle. So I think the first step is seeing and knowing, okay, I have this problem. Like, confronting you, allowing the Lord to search your heart, and like, this is the issue.
Yep. That's good. Awesome. Do you guys have anything else to add to that?
I think that was good.
Yeah?
that's
So in a
great.
nutshell, just one thing that you guys can say before we end the episode. In your opinion, in your perspective, in your life, or in your experience, what does it take to live an intentional life? And Jay, you already said it, you could repeat yourself with the one word.
Yeah, like I just said, I guess I could say accountability.
Accountability.
And I can also go off what Omar had said earlier, priorities.
Priority, that's good. You probably
Because-
stole his.
Yeah, I
That's
probably
not
did. My
funny.
dearest
No, it's
apologies.
okay. It's okay.
But because you have to prioritize what's going on.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
What do
I
you
think
got?
even being consistent with what you're doing.
Being
Like, I
consistent.
think all these words kind of tie together. Being consistent, keeping yourself accountable. Like it all means the same to me. It's all like, just do what you need to do. Almost.
Yep, that's good. Charlie, you got something?
I would just say it's a sacrifice. Like you just
good, yeah.
sacrifice. Like don't always think of the short term feeling of doing something. Sorry, like I'm gonna watch this show even though I should be doing this right now. Like don't want that short term feeling. What's the word? Starts with a G. Gratification.
Yeah.
And just think about the long term benefit of
Yeah.
like whatever you want. So just sacrifice.
That's good. That's really good. Sacrifice is everything. If I had a nickel for every time I prepped a sermon, and one of the points was you have to be willing to sacrifice, I'd probably be a millionaire because it's a standard all across the board.
I wish.